Welcome to Share the Load, the podcast, brought to you by the DPJ Foundation. This is a space for honest conversations, real stories and shared experiences, shining a light on the challenges we face and reminding each other that none of us have to carry the load alone. In each episode, we'll be talking with people from across our community, exploring life, work, mental health and the realities that shape us, the good, the difficult and everything in between. Before we begin, we want to let you know that some episodes may include sensitive topics, including discussions around mental health and suicide. If at any point you find the content upsetting, please take a moment, pause and look after yourself. If you or someone you know needs support, we encourage you to reach out to a trusted person or a professional organisation. You can also call our 24/7 call line on 0800 587 4262 and you can find further information on our website. This is Share the Load.
Croeso i'r Rhannwch y Baich, y podlediad a ddygwyd I chi gan sefydliad DPJ. Mae hwn yn lle ar gyfer sgyrsiau gonest, straeon go iawn, a phrofiadau ar enir, gan daflu goleini ar yr heriau rydym yn ei hwynebu ac atgoffa'n gilydd nad oes rhaid i'r un ohonom gario'r baich ar ei pennu ein hunain. Ym mhob penod, byddwn nhw'n siarad â phobl o bob cornel o'n cymuned, gan archwilio bywyd, gwaith, iechyd meddwl a realiti sy'n ei llunio. Y da, yr anodd, a phopeth rhyngddynt. Cyn I ni ddechrau, rydym am roi gwybod I chi y gallai rhai penodau gynnwys pynciau sensitif, gan gynnwys trafodaethau ynghylch iechyd meddwl a hunanladdiad. Os byddwch chi ar unrhyw adeg yn teimlo bod y cynnwys yn ofidus, cymerwch eiliad, oedwch, a gofalwch amdanoch eich hun. Os oes angen cefnogaeth arnoch chi, neu rhywun rydych chi'n ei adnabod, rydym yn eich annog I gysylltu â pherson dibynadwy neu sefydliad proffesiynol. Gallwch hefyd ffonio ein llinell alwadau 24 awr y dydd, 7 diwrnod yr wythnos ar 0800 587 42 62 a dod o hyd I ragor o wybodaeth ar ein gwefan. Dyma Rhannwch y Baich.
So welcome today to Penllyn Estate. Thank you for having us to the 7th episode of the Share the Load podcast. I'm here with Emma once again.
Yep, I'm back. I feel like I've been allowed back.
Brilliant. And we're joined by two lovely gentlemen who have agreed to join us. We've got Chris and Iwan with us. So should we start by some introductions? Iwan, do you want to go first?
Yeah, go on. Well, I haven't been called lovely or a gentleman in a long time, so that's a great start to the day anyway. But yeah, so Iwan Thomas. Yeah, I work as a classifier for Holstein UK, but also involved in a family farm at home. Well, and in-laws family farm, we do a good bit there as well, as you'll know, Kate. Yeah, and I've been heavily involved in young farmers and stuff through my time as well. So yeah, that's me in a little nutshell then, really.
So you said you're a classifier for Holstein UK. Just for those people who don't know, which I was one of those people when you got that job, what is a classifier and what they do?
I googled it. I'm not going to lie. I didn't have a clue.
This might just take the whole podcast. Yeah, in a nutshell, I assess cows on their standard according to the breed, really. So I score cows on a set scale against the standard of each of their breeds, and we do dairy cows and beef cows then. So
you took stock judging in YFC to the next level,
that's basically
you were a really good stock judger.
Yeah, well, I think that's about the only thing I was quite good at.
I did beat you once.
There we go.
Once upon a time.
No, you didn't beat your job.
Poor judge that day, mind, Kate.
Yeah, Kevin Thomas.
Like I said.
Oh, brilliant. Okay, do you want to introduce yourself? Tell us a bit about yourself.
Yeah, good morning. I'm Chris. I'm a farm manager here locally at Pancras Farm. I've got 2 young children. And yeah, know Kate from previous goings on with Future Farmers of Wales and various other things, and Cows on Tour. And yeah, I've done a few stints with various committees and things, but at the moment just concentrating on family life and farming.
Sounds like a nice place to concentrate on at the moment.
So far so good.
Yeah, I think we probably all hit that sort of age where life's changed a little bit, hasn't it? And like those focuses and things, we had a bit of a discussion before we started, isn't it? So tell us a little bit about your children, both of you have got.
Yeah, well, I've got 7-year-old twins, Elsie and Grace. My wife Kay, then one of Kate's best friends, then. So Kate would probably tell you more about my kids than I do, really. We're living in Neath, and it's just nice. It's just watching them kids grow up is just one of the nicest things you'll ever see in it. And well, they're twins, obviously identical, big opposites. So it does give you a very different sort of outlook on life when you've got one girl who's a proper tomboy, one who's a little princess, and it sort of blows your mind, really. And as far as characters go, I generally tend to say that the characters probably are more similar the other way around. You know, the princess is probably nearer in character to me in terms of being laid back. And,
it says a lot about you.
it does. And then Elsie, then the tomboy, is probably and I think you might agree, Kate, you know them well enough, that she's probably nearer to Kay, really, in that she's like full on and everything's got to be right and done properly. So
do they have any interest in the farm and the farming?
Yeah, both of them quite interested, really. I've obviously got a bit of a history. I've shown cows and stuff over time, so both of them have led calves in a local show. I'm not saying they're very good at it, but they very much enjoy doing it. You know, they've got loads to learn if they want to be very good at it yet. But I'm a big fan of everybody having a go, really, more than needing to be great at it. You learn lots of other skills when you try these different things. You know, there's skills you learn in terms of being patient and you know, learning that you don't win every time is a big thing. But there's also that camaraderie, because you know you get to know other people that are from different areas, different places. That's a big thing with agriculture anyway as well. You know, you get to know people. I don't know, if you live in sort of in a town or an urban area, you mix with those friends, and you probably mix with those friends in nearly everything you do. But with agriculture, you do get to know people from everywhere, and that's one of those great things I find about it anyway. So, but we've started that off from Elsie actually being scared of animals to start with. So she's come a long way from there. Really.
We'll come back to those connections in a minute, actually. I'm quite interested to sort of explore that a little bit. And then your two.
Yeah, so Mabel's 8 and Henry's 6. Mabel is desperate at the moment for a cat, and like I was trying to explain to her, like, farm dogs and farm cats aren't necessarily animals that you want in the house as well, sort of thing. They're like two different extremes. Like her friends that like live in a nice little house and don't have like cow muck to roll around in the dogs and stuff. So we're
slightly
just balancing
cheaper than
that.
a horse, though.
Yeah, absolutely. But I'm still trying to convince her that like 400 heifers would be one of them would make a perfect pet. So there's work to be done there. And then Henry is like mad about farming, everything to do with farming. Yeah, he's desperate. But then I'm lucky in a respect that I work on a big farm. We got big shiny new tractors. They've all got GPS, and it's exciting and it is wonderful then, sort of thing. So whether a little David Brown sort of like 75 horsepower would still float his boat, I'm not sure, but there's room for him yet. So he's desperate to be a mechanic when he's older at the moment. So that's good. And then Mabel loves like helping animals, working with animals. And we once had a heifer with a cyst on the eye, and a vet had to come and do some work with her. Well, Mabel was closer, so the vet has to ask her twice to step away to not be so close so she could see what she was doing. And it's like little things like that. Like then she writes about it in her school books and goes and tells the teacher, and the teacher's like not sure to be amazed or horrified and things like that. So we go to a very like urban school in Sully, and it's they are the only two farming kids in there, and I'm not sure. So so I get roped into taking cows on tour to school once a year, and they think that's great, and they love it, sort of thing. So
a similar experience this week with a prolapse lamb, and my kids were just like right in there. Like my two girls are so interested. My son's got no interest whatsoever, and Mally and Erin were just literally staring at it. They were so interested in it, and Erin was like, "I'm going to tell my teacher about this tomorrow." I was like, "Great!" I'm sure she can't wait to hear all about what Grandad was doing.
But it's life lessons as well. I think that it goes a long way when they've seen all this when they're young as well. It goes a long way to helping them in older life, and I know it is daunting when you think, oh my God, what are we going to tell the teacher tomorrow?
Yeah. As a teacher, I've always heard far worse, trust me. Like, I've heard far worse. Like, animal stories don't bother me. It's the human stories that really concern me. But it's brilliant. One of my fondest memories as a child is watching a C-section being performed by the vet on one of the cows at home, and I just remember being asked to hold some part of this anatomy of this cow and thinking, this is amazing, you know. I think if I had a bit more brains, I would have probably been a vet, but it kind of it didn't quite happen. But no, it's brilliant. So I'll go back a little bit. You mentioned Cows on Tour, and I know both of you have been quite heavily involved with different kind of organisations, sort of voluntarily, really, haven't you, over the years? Do you want to talk a little bit more about those organisations that you've been involved in?
Well, young farmers is probably one of the most obvious ones that I'd start with. You obviously start in year, whatever, 11, I think, when I first joined. You find your feet, you do a bit of competing, and some would sort of, once they're sort of done at that sort of age within the club, they're happy. But I don't really know how it ended up happening. But I got involved with Carmarthenshire Rural Affairs Committee to start with, and then obviously you sit then on the Wales Rural Affairs, and then that sort of escalated and snowballed, and I was chairman of Wales Rural Affairs as well then. So opens your eyes to a little bit more of what YFC does as well, beyond the competition sort of element and stuff, because I've met with ministers and all sorts in that role as well, both when I was vice and as chairman, it does open your eyes to what you can achieve through a youth organisation as well from that perspective. But
you two were serving at the same time, am I right?
Yeah.
Well, Kate you were chair when I was Rural Affairs chair.
Rural Affairs chair. So we were both vice in those roles at the same time. And it is that thing of the opportunities you get to have your voice heard, and it does make some difference, even though sometimes it feels like you don't. It's a different perspective, and that's what we used to find, I think, a lot. Iwan, I think you'll agree, coming at it from a young farmer's perspective. It's the future of the industry potentially, and not everybody involved in young farmers is a farmer, and not all farmers are members of young farmers, but there is a cross-section of the industry there. So we would find that politicians would be interested in what we had to say, because it wasn't that sort of that sort of ingrained positions necessarily.
The ingrained status quo answers that they were maybe getting from maybe some of the other parts of the industry, where they're sticking to the same thing all the time. And I was very fortunate that my vice chair was a lad called Kerry Davis, and Kerry was blooming legendary because he was exceedingly practical, hands-on. He even hosted, we had ministers to his farm, and he basically tried to educate them on why coppicing and hedge laying was seriously important, and it was just one of those things you could see we were trying to. I'm not saying we achieved it every time. I think you probably agree, Kate.
No, absolutely.
There's a heck of a lot of red tape once you get past it. Things might not get to the end goal, but I do feel like in the time that we did it, you were like, well, at least we're opening their ears and eyes to seeing why things within rural life are really important. Really.
Do you think it's shaped your kind of, and I suppose it's a question for everybody really, has it shaped kind of going forward? Because really weirdly, I went to YFC for a very short period of time and didn't really continue with it for various reasons, whereas Mali now is dead keen on it. She's started at 11, she's 13 now, she does everything under the sun, and it's brilliant for her, absolutely fantastic. She knows more about the sheep at home than me and my dad do, because we're dairy farmers. We don't know anything about sheep, but she knows everything about them, and is able to kind of really give us loads of advice. She's learned so much, and I can really see that kind of going through her with life. Do you think that's kind of shaped your you've obviously kind of had experiences to the top with YFC, not everyone has that, but do you think it shaped kind of your future, I suppose?
But the only thing I'll say is you only get the experience at the top because the experiences you've had before have built you. I would have really, at the start in farmers, I was only interested in judging stock. That's all I wanted. And only dairy cows, really.
It's obviously done you well.
And it's got me somewhere.
Of it,
but then there's even within work, we've taken the thing of we classify beef cows. That started rolling that out, and it's not all the lads in work are comfortable maybe with doing it. So some of them have chosen not to go into that classifying of beef cows. But when I was asked, I was like, well, I've judged them. I've stock judged them. I've got a little understanding. So we'll take that on as long as we're trained properly within every breed and stuff. That's fine. So it does it means because you've experienced something, there's another door opening. There's something
and it's
different.
It's not so frightening then, is it? You've done it, the public speaking element of it as well, isn't it? It's all
100%.
helps with that.
Definitely. I think looking at what I learned about the industry through young farmers and through future farmers was the broader perspective. So, coming from a beef and sheep hill farm where what we do is what we do, that was very, very small perspective really. I learnt about, I'm not an expert at dairy, whereas you three probably are, but I know more about it. I know more about what the nuts and bolts of some of these policies, and, had to learn some of it for, hosting. I remember facilitating a discussion about what is now SFS. At the time, I think it was Brexit in our land or something like that. Having to read that consultation document to know it. I wouldn't have bothered otherwise. So it gives you those opportunities to get into the nuts and bolts and also appreciate other people's challenges. I remember Chris doing an online meeting during COVID. I think you might have been on there, or you might have not been able to make it because you were working. And there were farmers from Pembrokeshire, there were farmers from Cardiff. It was with the ministers, and we didn't feel very heard. Were you at the meeting?
I was chairing it.
Yeah, sorry.
I can't believe you didn't remember that.
Not one of my finer moments.
You obviously made a real impact.
Wait for the story.
I just remember the letter after that we had to write.
He was a good chairman. The chairman's meant to facilitate and not be memorable.
Yeah.
Well done.
Indeed. Well, yes, the minister at the time was 20 minutes late.
Yes.
Turning up to us. And it was a strict hour, and she was 20 minutes late, and it didn't go to plan, did it?
No, it was a really tough meeting, wasn't it? And it was, it was really, but at the same time, hearing those first-hand experiences from people who were just having torture with TB, and that's informed me for this job, to be able to, I still think back to those stories that I heard then, to bring the reality, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And that opportunity, like you said, I think the opportunity to see what other people are doing and learn about other, because there are so many different sort of parts of farming, aren't there, that you don't understand. I know we're sat here in a grain store at the moment, and I couldn't tell you anything about. I've been asking Kate about what's that over there, and unless you're you tend to sort of be very ingrained in your own part of the industry, don't you? So YFC certainly opens up those kind of doors, doesn't it, to learn about others. So yourself, then, were you a member of YFC? Or
no, I've got one very funny story which I'll just do with you. But essentially, I played a lot of rugby at that age, so it always clashed with young farmers. So I was one or the other, and mum and dad couldn't taxi us everywhere. So older brother did YFC. I ended up playing a lot of rugby, except one evening in the summer they went on we're going to Uncle John Lucker to Tanglois Farm. Everyone probably knows him in the YFC movement, and he said, Chris, if you want to come, we're going on a banana boat tonight. Well, my idea of a banana boat was in Spain. It gets a dinghy tied behind a speedboat. Not that kind of banana boat, it turned out. So I turned up with a towel and bathers, ready to get on a 52-seater bus, and it turned out that it was actually a boat that arrived in Barry Dock with bananas from the Caribbean on it. So we were having a geography lesson.
And you were in your swimmers,
and I had my Speedos and towel ready. But it was a very interesting evening, but I probably should have had a bit more input for the organisation of it. So
that was the start
that
and the
was
end of your YFC.
one of my main, and a few Queen's balls then. But essentially, my YFC days started and ended with a banana boat experience.
I mean, that's more of a YFC experience than a lot of people have.
Quite.
I mean, banana farming is something that's not usually covered, I suppose. But you've done a lot with Future Farmers and Cows on Tour.
Yeah, so Future Farmers, I've done a lot with that. Cows on Tour, fantastic. Really enjoy that. Like you were saying, we're in a grain store here. We've got a bit of grain. You get children putting their hands in that, and it's the most, it's just a feeling on their hands, a sensory feeling, and that just descends communication, and they just enjoy it. And farming is such an easy story to tell, and the buy-in you get is amazing. I was lucky enough to do the Cows on Tour roadshow. Lucky, I don't know whether that's the right word, but got pulled into it. I'm a neighbour of Abby's, so sort of conceptualised the idea and took it on, and that was a great 5 days. But made some friends for life and had a wonderful time. But it's getting into schools, telling teachers are gaining as much from it as the pupils are, and it would just be lovely if we could do a school a month across Wales, and then within 3 years you'd done so many schools. But it just relies on volunteers, and then the school's we'd love to pay you for it, and you're like, no, that's going against everything we want. We want to give
and
our time.
A lot of schools don't have the funds for it either.
The funds for it, but it's not just there's so much paperwork to do to go into a school now as well, like getting a movement license to take a cow to a school for a day. You're like, you speak to AFA and they, what do you want to do that for? And you're like, well, just come along and see us do it. You'll understand why it needs to be made easier and bits and pieces. So I've done a lot with that. I still try and do 4 or 5 schools a year, and whether it's just me doing it with a tractor and a cow, or getting a few other friends involved and taking some sheep and things along. That's brilliant. And then Future Farmers of Wales, as Kate alluded to there, I was chair of that in 2018 to 2020, and I think it's really good. It's a fixed term 2-year period. You're vice for 2 years, then chair for 2 years. Like everything though, it's harder to get members, to retain members, even though today's communications are 10 times easier than they used to be, it is really hard to get people to engage. And so if anyone listening wants to get involved, just Google it, we'll find Future Farmers and send an email to Maria. And it's a great organisation. They put on a hustings evening last week, and they had any questions to finish. And as you say, John Davis from Brecon there, he sort of started, and I was like, I'm not having him ask the last question. He asked thousands of questions. So I wanted to ask, like, what will these politicians, what can they do to give hope to a youngster in the Royal Welsh Show? And like, it's easy to say and answer housing and things, but how do you get housing to rural communities? Like, how do you make it affordable for people to live in the countryside? Like, it's not easy. No. And I think that is a challenge for those that be. But as you say, like, sitting on boards, you get to give a personal story, and I think that's very unique. Like YFC, Future Farmers, you give your heart and soul into that organisation, and therefore your story comes out when you're speaking to these
definitely.
people.
And like, you were saying about recruiting people for, like, I'd be one of those guilty ones. I pay my Future Farmers of Wales subs. I've never been to a meeting or anything because a bit like what we talked about earlier, you can only spread yourself so thin. Yeah. And if you're involved in one thing, you can't involve in everything. But anybody who's got a little bit of time and pick yourself up some organisation that you can hopefully try and help make an impact. And it's surprising how far it can go, isn't it? And, or how far your message can maybe reach in a personal level, really.
I suppose there's a little bit more to that, other than just it being kind of something where you, like you said, you're getting your voice heard. Actually, the social element of going out and meeting with other people, and like, you mentioned earlier on about that connection with each other. I can guarantee wherever I go in Wales, you will have a connection with someone else. The farming community are very well connected in that sense, aren't they? Yeah. But what these opportunities offer us really is that ability to build those connections even further, which is vital in the farming community, isn't it?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Well, a bit like going back to like the young farmers thing. Like you've competed as well, Stockman of the Year. Like we've had me and there was 3 of us. We managed to. We were in the winning team, like Wales team, 4 years in a row. The road trips we had were amazing.
We had some
banter.
Whole other podcast, I think, isn't it?
Well, be like we'd been small and riffing, like, and you would literally like. Well, it's one of those great things. Like, it's the further away it was, the better it was. Yeah. Because you like skip the work in the morning. Even somebody else does the work in the morning. You dive in the car, you drive there, you go there. I can remember stories like one of my mates. Well, Fermio were filming in one of them, and we knew one of the producers, and she comes up and goes, "How are you boys this morning?" And then he goes, "Oh yeah, well, they've had to pull the pigs today." And she was like, "What?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, we're judging turkeys instead." And this rolled for probably the 40 minutes before the competition, and he was so sharp. He even told her, "Oh yeah, well, I've googled the breed points this morning," and he's and you make you do have a hell of a lot of fun when you go.
And that's important.
Oh, it is, because, well, going back to what like the DPJ Foundation's all about and mental health and stuff. If you can go and have a bit of crack and then involve, like, because we know people from other counties, and so you start winding them up about things like that as well, and you just like sort of one of those things where you just make light of everything, and you just have a bit of fun while you're doing it.
Because it can be really difficult. You've had a difficult day on the farm, the weather's really rubbish, being able to essentially go out and have that in the evenings and stuff. But then we talked a little bit before the podcast started about this, about how you find that balance, because that can be really difficult, can't it? You've both got young children, they come with their own challenges. How have you managed to balance that? Have you had to pull back from some of these things that you were doing, and how have you balanced that, really?
It's just like a natural obsolescence. I just found myself with Future Farms. I'd done my chairmanship, I'd stayed on for another year or two, and you need a succession. I was happy to leave there and step off the board or the policy committee because I'd brought 3 people on it, and they don't need old people hanging around, and like things go round in cycles, and it's there for them to sort out and them to look after, and little things like that. And then we had children, so your time gets required elsewhere, your family time, and ultimately I decided I was just thinking about this podcast this morning. Like, I had to make a selfish decision. I did a lot with the Royal Welsh Show, but ultimately my family needed me more. The children, everyone keeps telling you they're only young once. Yeah, they are only young once, but I'm in my earning potential. I'm 40 years old. Like, this is when I've got the highest earning potential I'm ever going to have in my life. Like, you need to capitalize on that. That's some reason. There's like, sometimes in farming, grandparents make better fathers because they also had to commit the time when they were 40 to the farm.
Absolutely.
And I think above and beyond that as well, they actually enjoy doing it as well because of what you've said exactly. They've spent that time when you and I were children, they spent that time working hard, maybe not missed out maybe because they've made the time to see the things you do, but they enjoy spending that time with them when they're little because they didn't have as much time to spend when you were little.
Yeah. Because of the exact reason you just said. You know, you're at your kind of peak, you can earn that money there and then. You've got to make the most of it, haven't you?
Yeah, so my kids seeing their parents doing like job shares and things like that, in their friends in school, like, they don't understand necessarily why I'm not there at every sports day and things, because like and then so we've got a holiday coming up now in early June. Well, like, it's just so happens that like the T2 spraying will end now at the end of May. The maize doesn't generally need spraying until sort of like middle of June, so usually you've got like a week. I can manage a week off the sprayer out of the farm, and then like trying to explain that to my children's head teacher that like I need to take a holiday then, which is in school term time, which isn't ideal, but like I'm going to be flat out working 100-hour weeks from July through till September, and you just need some time with the family.
Absolutely.
And they I think I've got it in credit though with Cows on Tour, taking like cows, sheep, donkeys, everything
You're in
to
the
school.
head
So
teacher's
you'd like to think so, but nonetheless you still feel like I need to do it properly and things. But it's just a time where like you just get away and spend some time with the family, and it's not easy.
And that's why a lot of those other things have to sort of give way a little bit when you get to that family stage, because as you've said, the earning potential thing, so you have to do the work, you have to earn the money. So any spare time you've got, you really need to sort of apply, if you can, to that sort of a bit of family life somewhere along the way, haven't you? You know what I mean?
Quality family time as well.
Yes,
it's not just bedtime when the kids are at their lowest ebb because they've been up since 5:30 and you're like, they don't get the best of you, you don't get the best of them. It's like that time at 10 a.m. in the morning, which they've had a good breakfast, they've had a good rest, and they're great fun then. They're not the whingy bags that you're trying to...
So what you're saying is you leave your wife deal with the whinge in the morning, you go for the nice bit, and then off you go.
Yeah, like my wife calls it like the witching hour sort of thing, and like from 6 till 7, and you're like trying to be the best parent by not letting them go on iPads, and you think like, you just don't put the stress on yourself. But like, it's easy as I'm sat in a sprayer sort of 50 miles away.
And it is like if I'm sitting in the, well, even last night I travelled home, kids were in bed by the time I got home from work, and you've just got to be aware of the fact that they've had to put up with the witching hour and all that. And to be fair, like, well, Kate will know Kay well enough, she's super organised. Like, there's food just about ready for me when I get home as well, and it's a lot of stuff to balance up, really, to be fair. So you've got to try and find that time somewhere, haven't you, and apply a bit of quality time, as you said.
But it's also our parents' generation, I'm not sure if my dad ever changed a nappy, whereas I'd like to think I did a lot more involvement, but it's also the pressure that takes as being the modern day father, but also with the traditions in agriculture of being the breadwinner, essentially.
Because you're doing all of that your dad did, as well as being the modern day dad, and doing that as well, and that's really a lot to manage.
But that's not to take away from my wife Laura either, because she's got ambitions as well, and like motherhood is one of them, being a lecturer is another, and she's got ambitions. So just to her to sit at home doing her things is not acceptable either. But it's balancing that, and there is no rule book or guidebook for it. You've just got to sort of muddle your way through it sometimes.
You do it definitely, and and I think that's maybe the rural sort of side of it. For one, I think traditionally we're very good at muddling through things because it's one of those things that just happens, isn't it?
Well, you have to, don't you?
Different things happen that sort of just pop up. It's not as it's not your 9 to 5 or whatever set hours it is. Things will pop up outside those hours, and they come and trip you up. So we're very good at that, and just sort of the muddle by, the make it work sort of thing.
If you've ever seen my welding, you'll understand. It's not just muddle by emotionally.
Oh, well, at least you can. Yeah. So no, it is just like there's a massive balancing act, and when you compare it to sort of the thing where, you know, if you do work like a 5-day week, 9 to 5. You know you've got the weekends, but agriculture doesn't allow you to have the weekends for that great quality family time. Yeah, definitely, does it?
Chris, you mentioned you said a throwaway comment, 100-hour weeks. You said, you know, about that summer period. How do you balance that? Because and I know, Iwan, your job is up and down in terms of the hours. It's not that fixed pattern of I'm working 37 hours a week and that there's this time, I'm working shifts, because it's not that set thing. So how do you cope with not seeing the children, or making sure that there's that contact, I suppose, that they don't forget who daddy is, really?
It's not easy. Laura's great with that, my wife. She'll bring the children out for a picnic to the field, which, again, not every farm can do that. Not every person can do that. It's like, I've got a great boss, and he understands that, like a lot of lots of issues there to unpack. But essentially, Laura will bring the children out. I'll try and have breakfast. Henry's an early riser. He loves farming, so he'll sit on the sprayer with me for 5-6 hours, which I don't know, with the letter of the law he's probably not allowed to, but that's how I was brought up as children. I remember having an ancient old John Deere 2-wheel drive, but there was like a cubby hole big enough for a 5-year-old behind the driver's seat to have and you'd spend hours and hours sat behind that seat.
That was my childhood, just sat in the back of the Zeta, and like literally this gap. Well, I wouldn't fit my arse in there now, but it was tiny, and you know that was my life. You know.
And my wife's worried about the children with a bad neck from watching iPad. Like, I've been watching like a forage harvest behind you, and you're like there watching backwards, watching forwards, watching backwards,
and the draft.
Exactly. And then you never get a nice set regulatory temperature, so you like burn your ass and things. It's like So that is. So how do you do it?
I don't know. You said you got posh tractors. I bet you got aircon.
Now we have. Now we have. Not then. No. So on the family farm sort of thing. But no, but it's a commitment that I've made to the farm, and Laura understands that, and you make your way through it, don't you? Like then we've got, where I live, we've got 400 young stock, so I spend maybe like 3 hours looking after those some days. So then the children will come out and help me do that, which I'm technically working as part of that 100 hours, but you've got 3 helpers in tow, sort of thing. You're like, it's like you just manage it, don't you, sort of thing. So, but it's not easy.
No, it certainly isn't, and like a little bit different, really. You know, my work, my day-to-day work takes me sort of away from everybody, really. You know what I mean? I try and make sure I call in and help with my mum and dad mornings, afternoons, if I can, if I'm travelling past and stuff. So there's a bit of time goes there. But yeah, I spend then like a fortnight in January, fortnight in June out in Northern Ireland, and really, like, modern technology is great for, you know, WhatsApp, Snapchat. You get a bit of communication, so you never sort of lose touch with the kids, because like Kay will send me a Snapchat of him, you know, playing in the garden, or so you always feel sort of in touch. But it is hard being away, and I always like that. I always tell the lads in work, there's a lot of guys enjoy going to Northern Ireland. I find it's great. The novelty's great. You get on the ferry on the Sunday, you work your way across. Friday afternoon comes, and you just like,
time to go.
Could be at home now. I could be at home. And that's probably for me the toughest bit. The second week, whenever I'm in Northern Ireland, when I work, is always the hardest, because that's when you start like missing them a little bit. You should have had a day. You know, I usually take them out one day every weekend over to my parents, and a bit like you were saying. They'll come out, they'll maybe clean a few mangers out and bits and bobs, so you get spend time with them, you know. So you miss that day. So I always find that second week when I'm over there is always the hard one. The first one, you know, you're used to, you know, like you say, you get the little Snapchats, you're like, oh, look, they're ready for school, or they're picking up, and
you're missing the witching hour as well.
That's maybe the positive.
What's your hopes then for kind of them with the future then? Would you hope that they go into farming? Would you steer them away from it? Like, what's your kind of thoughts about what you would hope for that?
As I keep on telling them, I don't think their job's been invented yet. Like, so many things are just changing and evolving, and AI is just accelerating that advancement in stuff. But essentially, I've got a godfather, and he said, if you can do work with your hands, you'll always have employment. And I just, there's not a nut and bolt safe in the house that Henry hasn't undone or played with. Mabel is great. She's so creative and crafty, and she's got an aunt who sort of is an artist and paints windows all over South Wales, which is brilliant. And they see that, and they see me doing that, hopefully. And then they might take that on. And I think that's the only advice I could give them, and do something you enjoy and you never work a day in your life. Like I feel I do that, and very lucky to. And if you can do something with your hands, then you'll always find something to keep them busy, sort of thing. So that's all I'd like them to get.
Yeah, I'll similar. Not that we've maybe discussed the thing of with your hands, but I won't discourage or encourage them. You know, I think they're young yet. They're 7, still finding their way, find their feet in life, let alone in terms of what they want to do. But whatever they want to try and achieve, I think the only thing you can do is try and encourage them. You know, our two are, like we've talked about it before starting, they're total opposites. You know, Elsie's a tomboy. Grace is a massive princess, although Elsie will dress up smart, like girly girl stuff whenever the chance comes. But like, you go out and play football with them in the garden, Elsie thinks she's the best footballer in the world. And I won't discourage her from thinking it, because if she enjoys doing it, crack on and do it, and see what comes, isn't it? You know, there's only a small proportion of people who make a footballer, there's only a small proportion of people who will do this. But if they enjoy doing it, just crack on and go and enjoy it. And wherever that takes you, I think it's just brilliant. And I'd encourage them to just do it well. But we're going back to this thing of, you know, that young farmers thing of I started off only wanting to judge stock. Well, I've ended up, I've sung, I've acted, I've done all sorts of stuff. You get to try a little bit of everything. Yeah. And I think if you can do that in life and not box yourself in one thing, your job will find itself, whether it's not invented or not. But I think that's a very good logic as well, because with AI and all that now, if you work with your hands, AI will never do that. It's never going to be able to do that.
Although looking at some of those robots in China that have been running marathons, who knows?
Yeah, potentially.
It's is it something that you always want to do? Did you always want to be involved in agriculture, like as you were growing up? Because you went to university and studied chemistry, didn't you?
Yeah. So I never saw a career in farming, and I was lucky enough to get sent by the Royal Welsh Show I applied and sent there, and spoke to Princess Anne at one of these McDonald's breakout rooms in the Oxford Farming Conference. And I don't know, I was slow on the uptake, and I ended up like having to give the room's feedback to the panel, sort of thing. So I stood up there and sort of ummed and ahed a bit, and I think I was like 17 or 18 at the time, so pretty young doing this sort of thing before uni. And I just thought that farming doesn't have a career progression. Generally, like so many people start farming at minimum wage, and they finish, that wage has gone up with RPI and what have you, but essentially they finish on minimum wage at the end of their 40, 50 years. And the opportunities for career progression just didn't seem to be there. So looking into it and things, and I just couldn't see a career there. So I went to uni to do chemistry, so I enjoyed doing it in school, and then got my degree, and then was going to go into the forensic service science for the police, and looked into that and did some work placements and things. And then my current boss, who I'd been there, they sort of inherited me on a pick your own strawberry farm when I was 12. So I think I've been working there now for like 26, 27 years. They offered me a job to go and build an AD plant, and I built that. They put a huge amount of faith and trust in me, and built that from university, and been working there full time now since like 2008, something like that. So it's brilliant, and I don't enjoy the monotony of milking cows, but then we milk so many, it's like last 8-9 hours. But I do enjoy the challenges that farming brings. It tests my welding, plumbing, electricity. There's just so many skills farming requires.
It's not a singular kind of role, is it? No. You have to have so many different skill sets.
It's like a jack of all trades, a master of none. Yeah. But that I believe that saying goes on, but like it's just opportunities are endless, and then like to come and do things like this morning, like it's brilliant. So and then I've got a huge amount to be grateful for from farming as well. So
maybe on the flip side, I probably always had an inclination to want to farm. Like when we only started dairy farming when I was 10, we were living in Aberystwyth, both parents full-time job, 250 ewes on like little pockets of land here and there, and then moved to a rented farm. And I've always had a passion for dairy cows. Like I used to
summer holidays down to Llanelli then.
Yeah, summer holidays or even after we moved, summer holidays was always back to my uncle and aunties in Aberystwyth in Llancarfan, and I just loved cows. That was it. Just loved cows, and that was part of the reason we went dairy farming. I loved cows. Just how circumstances are, it's a private landlord, there's no real chance of progression, and it needs a lot of investment. So I went and got myself a job, and then from there on sort of progressed. And I put my mind, to be honest, at one stage when I was in university, I think my mother found it, because I was nominated for Dairy Student of the Year out of Aberystwyth University, made the final 3. So obviously there was a bit of a write-up in the university newsletter afterwards, and I'd put in there that I was either going to milk my own cows or be a classifier.
Oh really? You knew it then?
And my mother found it. So,
oh my gosh! Look at that.
Yeah. I was 2 years older than everybody else in that, so I was probably 23 at the time when I did that. You know what I mean? So it wasn't like 21.
No, but
fresh
you knew
from
then, because a huge amount of, well, not children, young adults at that age that this don't know still what they want to do, isn't it?
100%. Yeah.
Really difficult, isn't it?
And I also don't think there's a lot wrong with that either, because if you could test the water in different jobs and find your feet in the right one, well, it's a bit like, you go and get a chemistry degree and end up managing a farm. It gives you a different outlook on things, different skill sets. You probably think about things a lot differently to what a lot of other people do as well, because you've been through a different sort of route of education.
When the nutritionist says, "Oh, it could just be one of those things," that doesn't fly in chemistry. Like, it's not just one of those things. Like,
let me tell you.
No. I want an answer yes or an answer no.
Well, I was fortunate. My first job was at BOCM Pauls, and you'll have heard a guy called Richard Gibb. He would have been local here. Richard trained me. He was one of the best guys I've ever seen in terms of knowing how things tick. And first thing in the morning, every time we go training with Richard, in his house in Colwinston, we'd go. I wouldn't even have to knock on the door in the end, because I trained with him for 6 months. I'd know where he was, in the office, doing the diets. And he goes, I can make all the lights go out on this diet, but nothing will tell me if it works right until I see the cows. And so we'd go to the farms he was visiting for the day with the new diets, and then probably a week or 10 days later, we'd be back at those farms. And it isn't necessarily ever one of those things, is it?
No.
You can scientifically make all the lights go out, but if the cow tells you it's different, you've got to go back and work out why the cow is different to what the computer says, because you're working with all sorts of raw materials that are different, and that the chemist in you would understand that there is something else. So you'd probably be thinking, oh well, I need to get a micro analysis done on something because the macro isn't good enough. You know what I mean? So it gives you a different mindset on everything, really. If you've followed a different route, because I'll go to farms, and there's lads back on farms and girls back on farms. I can recall one from when I was in BOCM. He'd done a degree in geology and come back to farm. Spent the summer back with his dad, and then said, I actually quite enjoy this. And he kept to it. And it just gives you a different mindset. So even if you are 23, 25 and you've not sort of worked out what you want to do, try different jobs. Because I'll tell you the one thing about anybody that's from agriculture background, rural background, you'll hardly ever fail at anything, because you know what a work ethic is. You generally know that if you keep trying, you'll find something that you can do right. And I'd say just crack on and find your feet, whatever age you are.
Give it a go attitude, I think, is really important, isn't it? I suppose that's something that's part of this industry. It was instilled in us from quite a young age, isn't it? I remember sort of coming back from university, did a teaching degree, really struggled to get a teaching job, and I worked as a fencing contractor, and I genuinely, don't get me wrong, I love my job, if any of the children that I teach are listening, but that was the best job I ever had. I absolutely loved it. I learned so much, and it sounds ridiculous, but even to this day, the skills that I learned there, I can whap out a fence pretty quickly. quickly now, dab handle the hammer, but
Yeah.
I just love that job, and I think it is really important, like you said, to kind of have those different experiences with different jobs. It kind of really does lay into everything. Like Henry with his nuts and bolts and things, you know, if he goes on to be a mechanic and works on a farm, the skills that he's got, they're huge, aren't they, to take him forward?
That's just transferable as well, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So, no,
and that's what you want, isn't it? You want your kids to be able to kind of have those skills that would transfer them and give them a life where they've got opportunities, isn't it, essentially?
Yeah,
And
definitely.
I think it's also recognised that not everybody's good at everything.
Absolutely.
You know, none of us are good at everything completely. There are strengths, and with the best will in the world, some people will not be suited to a particular role, but there might be another role within the industry that really, really works for them.
And also, like, some children see their parents, like, they are physically exhausted, and some farmers will come in at the end of the day, they are mentally shattered, they've had phone calls all day, they're physically exhausted. What is the attraction of that?
Yeah.
Why would children want to follow their father?
Yeah.
They're seeing him exhausted and tired, financially struggling. Like, there is no appeal in that to a child either. So that is an industry-wide problem at the moment. But you just got to try and manage
Do you
that.
think that's shifting a little bit? I think I sort of feel like, you know, that we are having a bit of a shift in the industry where younger farmers are being encouraged to, you know, things like Young Farmers, Future Farmers, but also university. There is a bit more of a shift to kind of develop those skills set before, you know, essentially coming home, or even more options of whether they want to come home. You know, it used to be that I think that it was a given. You come home, you go on the farm, that's it, you know, and discourage potentially from, you know, getting those experiences. Do you think there's more of an emphasis now on people getting those skill sets? Because, you know, the industry is really difficult, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's essential, basically. You need to be able to, going back to the Making Farming a Career, 2 years ago I went on the Worshipful Company of Farm Business Management course.
Yeah.
Brilliant experience. It's like a few online things which are neither here nor there really, but they shouldn't know that. But
They will
but
now.
the actual part of the course is like 2.5 weeks intensive. We went to Cirencester College, RAU, and spent 2.5 weeks there with a group of like 18 of us there, intensive learning. You go off on day trips, and it was really intensive. But it taught you a huge amount about business, about profit loss, and then other things like risk analysis and managing cash flow, and all these things that you just sort of like take for granted. But like
The
actually
things you have to know.
they're the unglamorous side, and like
yeah.
it's much easier to go and put your fence up outside than it is to sit at cash flow analysis
Yeah,
and then a
absolutely.
5-year program. It's a bit scary, like sitting there and where you want to be in 5 years' time, making a plan and getting there, because like you're essentially committing something to paper, and like you need to. Once it's committed to paper, you're like it's mentally in you to drive to do it, and then there's the risk of failure there. So going like to get kids to go off to do university things, it just gets them on that better understanding of where the business needs to be, how you secure a business, and then like I work on a farm. There's like 44 of us working there. That's like 44 families supported by a farm. Like it's a massive undertaking. So decisions we make today will impact those 44 families. So you've got to make the right decisions, and but then you get like things outside your control. The current oil crisis, like red diesel going up to like 138 a litre. Like we're now in a stage where we'll use like 10,000 litres a day some days, which is just it's just an overhead we weren't expecting 6 months ago, and then the milk price is still on the floor, and IHT is looming. Like there's just so many things which, again, going back to the hustings evening, you're trying to portray these business concerns we have, because we are farmers, we will find a way around them. But they just need to understand the impact being made, decisions being made in Cardiff or in Westminster have a 2-year impact on a farm, and we're already 2 years ahead of where they are, because calves have been born. And it's
not just that immediate impact, then you move on, is
Exactly.
it? It is like a long term.
And that's what farming is. It's an investment into the land. It's an investment into like the countryside, and therefore into the community.
I always say that, you know, any part of agriculture, be it dairy, beef, sheep, even quicker turnover things like poultry, there is no turn the tap off, is there? No. You cannot just stop it. Like you got a factory making tin cans. If tin cans aren't profitable anymore, you can turn it off. But you cannot with agriculture, because you're, like as you said, your heifers that you need in 2 years' time are born. They're there.
They need
already.
feeding.
They need feeding, and then even the cow. The mother of that calf, she's at peak production. You can't just stop her. You can't just stop her. So what you say is right. The impacts that you've got are so far reaching down the line, and I think 2 years is the shortest term. I think that those impacts are hitting. I think if you're thinking about learning about like doing a 5-year plan, the impacts that political decisions have can be as far reaching as 5 and 10 years. You know what I mean? They are just gonna they will shape the industry in some sort of way.
I had a really interesting conversation of all NRW's issues and problems. They had one really interesting chap I spoke to back 6 months ago, and he was saying that is it Glastier now has just come to an end after about 22 years. It was we're now seeing the environmental benefits of Glastier at 22 years after its inception. Now it's been pulled. Like nature and the environment work in generational cycles. We just need to relay that back to the people that make decisions. That farming is a 25-year generational investment into things like ash dieback. Now trees are being pulled down left, right, and centre. We need to be replacing them now because the starlings, everything needs somewhere to live.
Similarly, like I saw news in the last few days. It was from the side of like the rivers, and it was like a fishing guy said, "Oh, these rivers are silted up, whatever." But the rivers are silted up because we haven't looked after the rivers. And again, that's a generational cycle thing. Everybody said, oh, you can't dredge them, you can't this, you can't that. But the impacts of having not done that, I think there's a massive impact in terms of flood risk and stuff from this as well, because the minute you take away capacity in a river, it's got to go somewhere. And as you said, the generational impact that it has, like these are decisions that have been made a bit like last year, like 27 years ago.
But only now we're kind of seeing
but
it.
Now
and
we're
that's a bit
seeing
of a concern really for the future, isn't it? For our children as well. And like, we've got election looming and there's all sorts of decisions being made, and there's some things happening in the world now which make me quite fearful for my kids as adults. And I think, oh my gosh, I don't know whether that's a world I want my kids to be living in, and that's a difficult kind of thing to manage, isn't it?
And you said my daughter, I think they start the day most days with read, write, income and reading, and then they watch news round from the day before. And you're like, news round, like why do they need to concern themselves with the world global goings on? I know it's nice to be, but like they're 8, let them enjoy themselves.
I kind of, as a rule, I'll be honest, I don't do news rounds. I just feel like these kids have got enough going on at home. Like we just need to be able to run around the playground like goose or whatever we're doing. Do you know what I mean? We have a bit of fun, and I think it's so leave us have that kind of worry. And I suppose that leads us on really to what I want to talk about next, which is we've talked about kind of the nice parts of the farming and how it's done good, but also actually there's quite a few elements of agriculture that are really difficult to manage. And I know from conversation we had prior to starting, you referred to COVID as probably the worst time of your life. Whereas actually you mentioned that it was quite a different experience for yourself, and I know that I had, in all honesty, without sort of thing, it was probably the best experience of my life. I had time with my children that I would never have had. We walked the land. I saw more of my fields than I have done in years because of work, commitments and things like that. Like how did that impact you? When you were within COVID?
At the time, you just get on with it, don't you? It's like there's the old adage, you just head down, carry on working. It's like the prop forward attitude to things, isn't it? You just push a bit harder. If you think you're going backwards, you just go a bit lower and harder. But ultimately, like looking back on it, we got a group. I did the Agri Academy in 2012, and then in 2023 we try and get back together annually. And a friend of mine hosted us, and they were all sitting around and talking things, and they were all saying how wonderful it was, and I just couldn't cope with it. Like the first time I left because it was easier to leave than talk, because I don't like talking. It's like it's too close to home. The second time, then Kerry really like pinned me down and like, right, this is your chance, like, and I've never cried like it. And I spoke about things I've never spoken about before to anyone, but ultimately I was going to work. We worked solidly for, I think it was like we'd had a 6-week-old baby born in January. He was 6 weeks when we went into lockdown. The wife had a C-section, so she still wasn't driving, but then like lockdown happened, and I was leaving the house every day at like 6:30 because farm carries on. It's going into a really busy time of year from March onwards.
And the weather was really good at that time.
Weather was brilliant and dry, and I just worked like nearly every day for 300 days then, and that took a huge toll on me because other people then weren't able to get there. Some people, I can't remember the name of the term, but they were staying at home to protect loved ones and things.
Yeah.
But like I can remember coming home and we were having Tesco deliveries coming in, and like Laura was there spraying everything with bleach and wiping everything down, and I'd literally been like working all day, and I was out so exposed. But the biggest problem I had was bringing that exposure back to her and
that
my
6-week
family,
baby as
the
well.
6-week-old baby and everything else, and that was really tough. And I just didn't enjoy it. But most of that came, like at the time, you just grin and bear it and get on. But like a year later, looking back on it, it was really tough. And
when you reflected, probably you could see the impact more then.
and the impact it had with like a 2-3-year-old daughter then, and like Laura trying to occupy a 6 or 7-week-old baby, a 3-year-old daughter, like it's hard work for her, and it took its. We're lucky in some respects that we had a garden on a house, like some other contemporaries, like they lived in a terraced house and they couldn't have done anything, sort of thing. We had 300 acres they can wander around in, but then that's easier said than done when you've got a 7-week-old baby and you've got a C-section scar recovering. So it just was tough. But
how did you cope with that at that point then? Did you sort of understand was it just head down like you said and get on with it?
100%.
And how do you cope with those things now, not out of COVID where you've kind of got those stressful things, because farming does present itself with stressful occasions. What are your coping strategies for dealing with those things when you come across them?
I don't know if I have one really. You just, like last night, you're still getting, we've got various machines on the farm that just decide to text you at various hours, and you got like problems. We milk for 22 hours a day. Like there's always going to be problems. But essentially last weekend, so last Sunday, the weather was beautiful. There was nothing that pressing, nothing like my agronomist wasn't shouting at me or screaming at me. So we walked up Pen-y-Fan and like little things like that. And we left, like my wife's looking at me, what do you want to leave the house at 7:30 for? Like we've got all day to do it. And I was like, no, the earlier you get there, it's going to be better. It won't be too hot. So we walked up Pen-y-Fan like with another friend and their kids and things, and then had a picnic on the way back down. And then as you get out the car park, you cross over a little bridge and there's a river there with a big rock, and then like seeing Henry and Mabel like after the walk-in, like there is like an hour, no, probably 2 hours it took us to walk up and down. They think they've conquered like that to them is their Everest sort of thing. But Henry's like, oh, my feet are so hot, and then he put them in the and they're just sat there on a rock with their feet in the river. Like it's so wholesome. And then that'll keep you, I don't know whether you call it like a fuel tank or whatever, that just fills it back up, doesn't it? And
that's the coping mechanism there, isn't it?
I guess so.
As difficult as those times are, it's making sure the times you do have together are purposeful and quality, aren't they?
Like tonight I won't be home until 11, 12 o'clock tonight, and I miss bedtime and everything else. So, but you've got that from last weekend, sort of thing. So.
I'd say it'd be much the same in that instance. Really, it's making sure that the time you spend is quality, be it a couple of hours a day, a weekend. We do generally as well, because Kay works a job that is term time, so we generally have to plan a holiday as well. So we'll be going away now, all of us, end of May, and just like
it's expensive, that, isn't it?
Well, it is.
Time when you do that,
it is definitely it is expensive because of the term time, not term time element of it. But it's invaluable as well, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Because it is your time to sort of switch off and just get away, and you're getting away from various things in it. So I'm getting away from work, Kay's getting away from work, kids are having a break from school, because in all fairness to them, both children love school. They do enjoy going to school, but they still need the break, and it's really important. So you've got to make the most of it, make it valuable time, really.
Do you switch off when you're away from farm? Because I remember like my family holidays as younger, and dad's on the phone checking in on the cows and things like that. Obviously they weren't, now it's like CCTV, people can even look on your phones. Luckily we didn't have that, because I think my mum might have throttled him. But like can you switch off?
No.
Not properly. No, not 100%.
I just find like maybe a 3-minute phone call will save so much hassle in the long run. An email response to a question will just solve, like, it can just knock on. It's ultimately, we're not running the country. I keep on comparing, like, I'm not running the NHS, but it is important in my world. It is important to those around me. So therefore, like, if I can just help an answer in 30 seconds by the phone call, I'd rather that than the problem get to a bigger issue when you get home. Because
and I totally agree. I think that is one of the things. Like, if you can have to spend 5-10 minutes, whatever, like my dad will be like, whenever we go on holiday, my dad's literally at home then, 73. So if you can make sure that you answer the phone and answer the questions or whatever that he has that he wants to know, because, you know, again, we're coming back to this building knowledge and stuff. If there's anything ill or anything, he doesn't really know what to treat it with.
Yeah.
But if he can give me the right sort of description of what's wrong, I can throw a good punt, or tell him, well, look, the best thing you're going to do is ring the vet now.
Talk him through it,
And you can, you know, so, like you say,
he's not phoning you up to tell you you've run out of tea bags,
exactly.
is he? He's phoning you up because he's concerned. So if he's concerned, it's a weight off his mind.
Exactly. So yeah, you know, it's not, you're not switching off, but you switch off to a degree, I think.
And this, I suppose, is the nature of the environment that we work in. It is a lifestyle, isn't it? Realistically, it's not a job that you can just close the book and that's it. You know, you are ingrained in that because you're constantly kind of, it's your life, isn't it? Your lifestyle.
Yeah, and it's a choice we've made.
Yeah.
And then also when we did one of the courses, a friend of mine said, like, you only get out what you put into something. And I put in, I feel a lot, so I get out a lot. And that is ultimately what it's about, isn't it? Like, I've made friends. Like, I wouldn't say my boss is a boss. Like, he came to my birthday party recently, and they're just enjoyable people to spend time with. So you're like, and it's 100% what you get out.
If you think about it, though, isn't it? You look at a broad industry, and everybody talks about return on investment. And maybe it isn't monetary, but what you put in, you get out. And it's still a return on investment, isn't it? You know, you invest time in something and you enjoy reaping the rewards of it as well.
And I say farming shouldn't be considered to any other different to any other industry. But there aren't many industries where you have your cake salesman come in and sit on the kitchen table and do it. Like, that is pretty unique to our industry, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
For good or bad. But I think there's, like, if you're running the NHS, you don't invite them back to your dining room table. You're not clearing out the cups of tea.
Maybe that's the answer.
Maybe that's an
Maybe
answer.
That's where we're going wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe the Prime Minister needs to get everyone on his kitchen table with a cup of tea, and that will make a difference.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you a question on the future. So you've both talked about how much your jobs and the industry means to you. What about retirement? Because that's that big R word that lots of farmers can't begin to contemplate. You mentioned your dad, is there working.
There was a
there.
very big
draw of
intake
breath
from both of you the minute that word was said. That was really interesting.
I'm only 40. It seems a long way away.
I'm a little closer than I'm 42.
But we're sort of, it is something that's maybe 20 years in the future, 30 years in the future. What will that look like?
I was like always very critical of people hanging on for too long. They should have given a golden watch and told to thank you for your service. You've been paid your wages, time to go. But actually now, as I've got older, you realise they've got an invaluable amount of skill and knowledge that just can't be lost, and skill sets and working with their hands, even just like, it's just one of those agricultural things. We've got 3 fields called that basically got park in it somewhere, and you think, like, to me it's obvious because one's in wheat, one's in grass, and you just know with the season you're in which one I'm referring to. But a student's coming from Harper for a year's placement, he's not going to know the intricacies of what you're doing. Whereas actually that knowledge, someone with more time on their hands when they're coming to retirement age, to grasp that experience and that skills that they've got, they just need to come in whatever they can do, 3 days a week, 2 days a week, 2 afternoons a week, whatever they want, just to impart some of that knowledge on and experience, and like a safe way to do it. There's a reason they've made it to 65, 70. Because they've done it in a safe manner. Like, hooking up a trailer quickly is in no one's best interest, because you do the wrong thing. Everyone's seen hitches come off tractors just from rushing, not in checking equipment. And those guys who are 70, retired, they've got that vast amount of experience to do it. And I think retirement isn't really a thing in farming. It's passing that experience down is more important than them leaving.
I think you've tackled the farming side of it well, but like, I'd even nearly suggest that in my job, like day-to-day job, there's only 12 of us, right? Only 3 of us under 55. There's a big cluster of lads within, I don't know, like 5 years of age in between them. I really, really worry about the experience you lose if they all walk away at the day they're meant to, that they intend on, that the age comes. But it's one of those things that we're fortunate enough. It's not a wildly physically taxing job in that sense. You have to be nimble enough to get around cows and stuff. So I just think that if you've got that knowledge sitting there that you can use, the longer you can keep them, the better. Because exactly what you said, Chris, it's like if you lose it, it's hard to find it in somebody else. You have to have I've been classifying for 14 years and I'd still be in the lowest half of service.
Which is mad, isn't it?
Like that's a career in so many other occupations.
Yeah.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's what I see. Like you lose that experience. Like we have a workshop every year where we all get together, and a lot of the boys would tell you that I'm vocal. Kate's laughing. But I also love sitting back and listening to these guys as well.
And I think that's what committees, to go back to YFC days, that's what, you've got 2 years, one mouth for a reason, haven't you? And you just sit back, and it's having that patience to sit back and give people the floor as well. And you might not agree. A lot of the time you don't agree with what they're saying. However, they've earned the right to have that say, haven't they, as well?
And the information they hold is so valuable. There's a local vintage show in Camrose, and the huge amount of the committee there are, my husband is on the committee and he's probably the youngest one, and the information and that he's had from the older sort of generations that are invaluable. And about these vintage tractors that a huge amount of people have got interest in, but very few people know how to deal with them, with fixing them and getting them sorted or whatever. Whereas, it's almost sad a bit that's going to be lost at some point, isn't it, with this generation, that kind of move on, isn't it?
Yeah, we'll sit in the committee of our local show as well, and exactly the same. There are guys that have been on this committee for 60, 70 years. They can nearly tell you where every pipe is laid in the showground, everything. But there's a few of us younger ones, we wouldn't have a clue.
There's not a map.
No, 100%. There isn't a map either. But it's all just about knowledge and making the best use you can. Maybe their role changes a little bit in whatever you are as you get older, because obviously we can't all be as nimble as we've been forever and whatnot. But if you can offer them the opportunity to keep contributing, that contribution's invaluable.
But then there also needs to be an opportunity to retire. Like to have financial astuteness to be in when you're 65, to be able to just say, oh, I've had enough. It'd be a wonderful thing. Like I always we'll have a pre-harvest talk now, which will only take 2 hours, where we get all the newbies in, all the experienced people in, and you're just like, guys, we are going to be working hard for the next 6-7 weeks. It is going to be hard work. You're going to spend more time with your colleagues than you are with your families. But at the end of the day, we all need to go home safely, and that is the priority number one. Whereas so often, you just end up with aches and pains when you've if you're a fencing contractor now, you'd have arms the size of your bicep.
I have got so many scars from barbed wire.
Calluses
I
on
would be
your hands.
shredded to pieces. You literally went, I wasn't great at it. I said I enjoyed it. I wasn't great at it. I have got scars all over my legs from barbed wire. It's brilliant. I had a whale of a time.
Yeah, exactly.
On the Pembrokeshire coast, post knocker.
But you just need to be able to retire healthy as well, and I think that is probably not something that happens all the time in farming.
It's knowing when to stop almost. It's that really difficult thing of being, I suppose, as an individual feeling you can let go, that it's okay to let go.
But that's not even just at retirement though. That's one issue we do have in agriculture is just knowing when to stop, full stop. Because we briefly talked a bit before we started about, everybody has scrapes when they're driving tractors and stuff. Some are better tractor drivers than others. But it all gets worse the more stressed you are, the more tired you are. And there'll probably be a time when you just think somebody's hauling grain or whatever, and you think, that guy needs a rest. He's got to stop. But he should probably know when the switch happens first to ask you, really. So it isn't just a retirement thing. That's an agriculture issue anyway, isn't it?
I really like the idea of you all sitting down and having that meeting together. I think that is probably, I don't know, but I've not really heard of that happening before. But I think it's a really valuable thing. And actually, you're sort of laying it out on the line. I know this is going to be hard. I think that's really valuable. Do you think the staff find that valuable to have that discussion?
It all came from a suicide on the farm, where a young lad, Adam, lived 2 minutes away from where we are today. He committed suicide on the 23rd of December, and it really rocked a lot of people. And he was 28, I think he was, 27. And everyone found it hard, and then we spoke to Kate and did a little bit of like work there and what was needed. And I think we need to, so often now you spend 14 hours a day sat hauling silage or hauling slurry, and you don't speak to anyone else. My favourite job on the farm, and we don't do a lot of it, is stone picking, because there's a line of you, like 6 of you in a row, someone driving a telehandler or a buggy or a trailer down the middle of the field, and you're actually conversing with the people around you, and that is one of the few. Wild oat picking is the other one, where you're actually walking and you're talking to each other, and it just doesn't happen very much. So making time, we'll have a first aid meeting now at the end of May is the plan, where it'll be sort of basic first aid for CPR and burns, electrocutions, cuts and scrapes, but then another 3 or 4 hours they're going to do on mental health as well, and that is like from like St John's Ambulance are providing that, and it's a mandatory because we are a big employer, so we have to have so many first aiders, but if they're recognising the effects of it as well, so that's that. And then we'll have this pre-harvest talk, which is basically just a chance to eat biscuits and have a cup of tea, but if 5 people take something home from that, then we've done our job, and if everyone ends the summer safe, and that's
and you've done all you can, haven't you, at that point? You're kind of laying that out there. That's really important.
And we are we're all aiming for one goal, and that came out of the about business management course. Like, it all sounds a bit highfalutin and stuff, but like, if you've got a goal and everyone's working towards it, there's a sense of something bigger, and bringing people with that journey with you is there's a reason why the top 10 companies in the UK have these goals and aspirations and drive, because they're bringing people on their journey, and they're and not that we want to be the top 10 companies, but it is, you can cherry pick some of the things off them, can't you? So.
Well, it's all about learning the right things for whatever organisation, company, farm. Even if you're self-employed, you know, it doesn't matter. You gotta pick the right things that fit your sort of role, your job, your.
And being confident to implement things that aren't necessarily the norm. Like, I think, like, you know, the first aid and the mental health element and things, and those conversations, you know, implementing those things that aren't necessarily the norm in farming, because let's be realistic, how many farmers do you know that are first aid trained? Very few. Whereas actually they're probably the most high risk category of people for those types of injuries, you know, mice cars being one to show the proof. But, you know, that being brave to make those decisions and actually take the industry forward, I think, is a really important thing to be able to do, to be able to stand up and make those changes.
And maybe there's scope in it being, you know, finding a way of making like that first aid training specific to agriculture, because there'll be a lot of times when you're working alone. So if something happens, you need to know how to
manage that on your own.
You know, if you're, you know, you break your arm when you're on your own, you need to know how to do things.
On that point, there is a new app coming from one of the other charities from RABI, specifically for that crisis first aid. So if you're working remotely, how do you tie a tourniquet, so to save save a limb, how do you keep somebody alive or yourself alive,
because that's the unfortunate thing. If there is an injury in agriculture when you're working on your own, there's a strong chance it's quite bad.
It's going to need that immediate support, and that time is critical.
Absolutely. Don't come to me though, because I just put a wet paper towel on it. That's my 16 years. Yeah, exactly.
And a bit of porous tape over the top.
You'll be absolutely fine. That's my teaching kind of element of it. I want to go a little bit back to what you mentioned. Obviously, you went through quite a difficult experience with losing a friend and a colleague, and I just want to sort of talk about how that impacted you really, and has that changed the way that you have an outlook on your life or your job following that incident?
Yes and no. A surprising number of friends of people. It happens. I don't know why, but again, like, there's I know you guys do a suicide training thing, but like, do I want that responsibility to do that? No, I don't. I've got a young family. Like, I've got my first commitment is to them. Like, do I feel I could have done more to help Adam? Yes, but ultimately, it's very difficult. It's very difficult. Like, you guys are skilled up. You know what you're doing. I could go on the first aid, the mental health awareness training, but ultimately, like, in a selfish way, I've got to look after myself as well, and I can't commit outside of that. And I think that's the biggest thing that I've realised is I need to make sure I'm okay first, but then on other aspects, taking that to the farm. So we've got like the DPJ posters up around the farm, and we have these like pre-harvest talks and an awareness and an openness just to make sure like you can check in. My boss is great at going in round, and there's no one who works harder than he does. So if you see him working like that, then you're sort of like pulled along with the ride, and you can speak to him, you can talk to him, and I think that's gone a long way. So I hope that I'm approachable in those respects as well. But what have we done? We just try and do these first aid trainings, and it is difficult. Like, I don't feel I'm well enough equipped to deal with people emotionally, but I lead a team, and if they see me working, it's like the rugby attitude towards it. But that's the only skills I have in that aspect. Is there more I can do? I'm sure there is, but what and how, I just don't know.
I think one of the big fears that people often have is feeling ill-equipped and being fearful that if they ask a question and the answer is something they can't deal with, it's how do you then deal with it? So, I think it's great that you've got the posters, that you're doing the training, that as the first aid training with St John's, which will include an element of mental health, and then maybe the next step is just trying to build some simple ways that you can have a bit more confidence of feeling, if I'm confronted with this, what would I do? Even if it's not doing it yourself, to have that, okay, this is what I'll do is, we'd phone somebody together or that kind of thing, to take that pressure off yourself of feeling, this is a heavy weight for me to have to carry. That's the sort of thing.
Because ultimately, you're right in what you say. You are responsible for yourself and your family, and I think that's a really important thing too. It's not it's not in any way selfish to be able to think, actually I've got to look after myself and my children first. It is really important. But like Kay mentioned, having that ability to be able to, even if someone just says something to you, to have that understanding of how to answer that, I think is really important. So presumably you spend a lot of time with regards to what you do out and about.
Yeah, out and about. Spend a lot of time on my own. I'm fortunate enough if I'm, once I get to a farm, I'm generally talking to somebody. But just listening there makes me think that maybe I need to be more aware, because obviously I'm interacting with farmers, and I might be the only person they've seen in a few days. So it does make you think that maybe you need to be a little more aware of things, and the same. I'm not great at talking about how you feel and all sorts of things.
It's difficult.
It is. But again, just if you're aware of thinking, this guy's doesn't seem normal to what he usually is when I'm here, and maybe just having that notion of maybe directing them in the right in the right way could just be enough to.
And even one of the things that I always say to any person or group that I speak to is to get the Stay Alive app. It's a free app that is a suicide prevention app, and just having that in your phone, if you are confronted with a situation where somebody is behaving in a way or saying things that make you think, oh, blimey, I think this person's thinking of suicide, then you've got the ability to have some guidance on how to manage that, and where to get help from, depending on where you are in the here and now. So that, and it's also got an ability to build a safety plan for yourself in there, which if somebody listening to this is having thoughts of suicide or has had thoughts of suicide, there's the ability within there to work out, how can I keep myself safe? Who are my go-to people? What are my go-to activities? What support services are out there? We always say, phone our helpline if you're worried about somebody else or worried about yourself, and we can take it from there with you. But it is that I think for a lot of people there's a dual fear. One is of having to do something, and that's something I can't take on because it's heavy. But also that fear of being confronted with a situation and not being equipped to manage that as well.
Another good friend of mine, committed suicide as well back in 2017. That one shocked me more than anything, really. But he felt very difficult, and I sort of understand. But firearms licenses and shotguns licenses, he didn't feel like he didn't want to go anywhere and get help because he might have his guns taken off him, and then as a result, it all escalated and spiraled, and he ended up doing it, which is awful. But these things, I don't know what the answer is, but like that was a concern of his and a concern of mine. Like if you do start searching this help, what about firearms licenses and things like that? It is difficult,
and that's why it was so important to us that we, with our service, that we keep it confidential. That it is that sort of that minimal information, safe space. But that's a really valid concern that we hear from so many people.
And that information, absolutely, so that you know, and like I said, we can speak for our own organisation in the sense that when you contact us, like Kate mentioned, you know, it's confidential, so therefore none of that information gets passed on. You know, your licences are completely safe and intact because, you know, unless there's a severe concern about somebody's, you know, in danger to themselves, then that, you know, that's not, there's no information that we pass on, or someone else, but like I said, it's a really valid concern for a huge amount of people, isn't it? That is, and there's so many different elements to the sector that make that a concern for that, and obviously we're a hugely male-dominated sector as well, which make that really difficult.
Makes it a lot harder, doesn't it? Because notoriously men aren't as good at talking.
Well, you've both said separately, don't really like talking about feelings very much.
But we talk about a field of wheat, no problem at all, or how cows are doing or not doing.
And sometimes that conversation in itself is just enough to be like...
and I think...
Bring you to the here and now.
That is maybe the thing that we all need to... we've both said that we're not great at talking about it and we'd find it hard to address, but even if you can just help somebody come back to talking about the normal day-to-day things of life, maybe it helps... distract their mindset and change them and maybe bring them back to the fact that whatever it is isn't as bad, or isn't gonna be the be all and end all, and you know that day to day is still there and going on.
And I think cows have saved a lot of people, haven't they? Getting up, you've got to get up and milk the cows. You've got to get up. That routine it's not easy. Getting up at like 6 o'clock or 3 o'clock or 2 o'clock, whatever time it is, it takes practice and it takes routine and it takes discipline, and that can get you out. I think that's what gets you out of a hole ultimately. I
and they're
find.
just nice to look at.
Yeah, exactly.
Great listeners, don't talk back.
Great listeners, Quite. So you're both married, and your wives presumably are very understanding, lovely ladies of your kind of lifestyle, because obviously being married to a farmer is really difficult. You know, you mentioned your wife comes from a farming background. It's difficult, isn't it, to kind of be involved with that?
Certainly.
I'm not saying it's difficult to be married to you, obviously, that's not what I'm saying. But it's difficult, you know, managing that kind of element of it, being married to a farmer, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I'm fortunate that, you know, Kay is as heavily involved at home as I am at my mum and dad's as well. Good, and like, well, her and the kids, they'll be on the farm now. I wouldn't mind betting they're probably sorting lambs at the moment, you know. So, she understands better than anybody else.
Do you think that's helpful?
Oh yeah, 100%. You often find it though, like one of my best mates is a vet. He's married to a vet. Yeah. They understand each other.
Yeah.
I don't know. You do find.
Oh, we're totally opposite. No, Laura's a complete townie.
Oh, is she?
Well, I say townie. She grew up in Llancarfan Major, which some parts is about as rural as it gets. But, no, she is. She works for like the University of South Wales as a play therapist lecturer.
Brilliant.
So she is so good at like I can't remember the name of the guy now, but it's basically like a pyramid structure, and you can only move up past. That's it. And you can only move up to the next level if you feel safe and secure in the level you're in. Yeah. And so you won't ever hit ambition unless you've got a roof over your head, unless you've got positivity, unless you've got secure earnings, and like ultimately, like it's knowing those skill sets and bringing them in, and that's I think that's really strengthened my ability to work with people and understand where people are coming from because of her perspective. And but she's got like there's 2 people on this morning drop off in school, and they're like, oh, farming okay, and she's like, no idea. Absolutely no idea. Yeah, like Chris is out late and comes home early, but he's happy about the weather.
And she's adapted to that like lifestyle and obviously of being a farmer's wife pretty well.
Yeah, it's just communication, isn't it?
I wonder if it's shared values more than shared experience or shared ambition, that type of thing.
She always makes a point, and I find it quite funny. She's the only other person I know that was on a committee, and I was on committees, and like there was like no one else we grew up with like did committees at all. Like you get into YFC, and then you will meet other people that sit on committees and things. But she's on like the mental health awareness ACAM, I think it is. She sits on a committee. She sits on a board. She's a board of director member on another like children's mental health sort of charity, and like that's brilliant, and like that's what's brought us together till we understand there's this thing that you only get out of something what you put into it, sort of thing. And I think then
and that understanding of when you're out like 3 times a week, those different things, that she'll also be out doing things as well, isn't it? Because it's difficult otherwise to understand, well, why are you putting so much into that, you know, when if that person's not inclined in that way themselves, isn't
because
it?
she's gaining something from it. Or if they do a lot more online meetings, and I can't stand an online meeting, I'd much rather we used to have all
That's
our
the good
meetings,
thing about farmer meetings.
Future Farmers of Wales. We used to go down to Brian Jones in the Cottage Inn in Llandilo, and it was like the best night, like a Monday evening, and 101 better things to be doing, but you know you're gonna have a good night, and you're gonna meet people that you like, and Laura's the same, but she just does it online from the office instead, sort of thing, and she gains from that sort of thing, and then twice a year she gets dragged up to London, and I partake in that and just like hold her bags, and it's nice then, isn't it, sort of thing.
So you guys go to London as well?
She has like a bag carrier. She doesn't like going far out the Wales, so we get the train up and stay at a Premier Inn up there, and they put us up, and it's lovely. So then I get invited to some random dinner, and they all go and have dinner after their conferences, and I like the novelty. They're all so like they're all doctors and professors of something, and then I'm the novelty of there, and like everyone wants to sit next to me, and you're like, no, I'm not that interesting, really, I'm not. But I've got a million questions for them, and they all just want to know about lambs and sheep and cows, and but no,
that is a great thing, mind, when you go into, because although that's all we know, to a lot of other people it's an absolute novelty, isn't it?
I find that all the time.
We've almost done a disgraceful job of farmers. Like we haven't shared, we haven't opened our doors enough.
We've had this conversation a couple of times already about how we're really bad at like showing what we do.
Absolutely
all
awful,
I've got to do is take a photo in of like when we're lambing at home, and just all I got to do is take a photo, put it up on the screen, and the kids are like, and there's like a million different questions about different things. And really weirdly, for the first time in my teaching career, I'm in a school that's got farmers in it, and it's amazing because the relationships I built with those kids, they're like, all right, so what tractors you got there, Miss? And they're like really keen to know, and all you got to do is show them a picture of a tractor. They're like, wow. They're like really excited. And one of the little boys in my class, they farm, and he's got piglets at the moment, and you know, just that one image, it just sparks so much conversation and interest. And you get that, I suppose, when the cow's on tour, isn't it? But not just with 4-year-olds, but in general in life, you know, so many of my friends are not from a farming background. They're so interested in it. And I remember friends coming over and lambing, and this lamb girl, I'm swinging it, and they're like, oh my God, what are you doing? And they were horrified by me swinging this lamb upside down, and I was like, get straw, shove it up his nose. They were like, this is awful. But like we just need to open those doors a little bit more to like, this is the life. It's great, but it's also really hard.
That's the funny thing, that swing of the lamb, like if you put it into perspective, it's lamb CPR.
But to a normal person, it's really, really brutal.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. But it looks horrendous, like from the outskirts. But when you know it, and like, so we need to kind of be a little bit better at that, don't we? And so where do you think people can do that then? How can we as an industry do that a little bit better? Where does that lie? Does it lie in social media? Does it lie in conversations? Does it lie in YFC and Future Farmers? Like, where does that lie?
I don't know.
Big question.
The Cows on Tour. Well, I did the very first Cows on Tour trip to London, and you mentioned earlier about talking about grain. I ended up doing the grain one, and I don't know a lot. But I'm asking them, what do you think is in crackers? Crack. And then you have to tell them about grain and how it's flour and this and that. That's a great vehicle for it. I don't 100% know if. Well, the only way YFC could potentially become a driver for that vehicle, couldn't it? Because if you can get kids of the same age as those kids, teaching them that the things the nasty bits aren't nasty, they're actually kind things, really. You know, you were saving a lamb's life by doing this and this and that. Maybe there's a bit of something there, because it is a little different. If you're going into a school as an adult, they do potentially look at you as a bit as a teacher again, then, isn't it? It's like, oh, here's another one trying to tell me what to do. Whereas if you're talking to people your age, your generation, and they show you an understanding of it, maybe maybe that could be a vehicle, maybe potentially, but beyond that,
I do think the practical element of the Cows on Tour is where it sits for a lot of people, you know, even adults. You know, I took a couple of ewes into school a few years ago, and I put the rugby post in the playground, hung the shearing machine off, and I sheared a couple of ewes in the thing. And the adults were generally probably more engaged than the kids, and they were just like, can we have a go? Can we have a go? So like all the staff team were having a go shearing and things like that, and they loved it. And I think those kind of practical things, like the bring the cows on tour and things like that, they're the things that we really need to be pushing, don't we, with this industry, to show people this is the realities of it, and engaging people in our industry, isn't it? hugely important.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
long may it continue.
Yeah, definitely.
It's storytelling, isn't it? We tell, with Cows on Tour, we storytelling, we're telling the farming story. That's what one of our straplines.
Yeah, well, and potentially that's what agriculture's been poor at, is telling the story.
Or only telling the story to ourselves.
And there
Yes,
are some really great stories out there, you know, and this podcast has brought so many of them out already, but in general, you know, just like my grandfather and friends of his and things like that, the stories that they had over the years, and like, you know, that they're the things I could sit and listen to them for hours, and like maybe that's what we need to be a bit better at. So we're coming to the end of our podcast now, and I can't thank you enough for everything you've shared with us, despite the fact you both said you don't really like talking. You've done a great job on it. So well done. We finished with all of our podcasts off with really asking people, we talk about what empties our bucket and what kind of are those things that we do to make us feel a little bit better about ourselves, and we've touched on a few things that you guys do today, and Kate has shared yours is quite often netball. We've gone through some turmoil. We had the netball was finishing and then it wasn't finishing, and now we're back on. So what's like in this lovely beautiful sunshine we're having at the moment, what is emptying your bucket at the moment?
So last night I spent the evening with my partner's daughters, and that was really bucket emptying, even though the night didn't go as planned.
How much wine was involved?
For me, none, but there was a couple of bottles were involved though. But it was just, the event we went to was really rubbish. But we had a nice time.
We won't tell
and it
anybody
was
what
a
that
chance
is.
to connect and everything. Yeah, it is that time, spending time with people that you like, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. At the moment, I've definitely got issues. I kind of flip between things all the time, and now the weather's a bit better, I'm back running again, mainly because I'm really frightened that my fat ass isn't going to make it up Peru in Machu Picchu. We're going in like 28 days or something, and I've like literally spent the whole sort of year and a half just like, it's fine. 28 days before this idiot decides she's not going to make it up there. So now is a good time to start training. So I've started running, which I'm really enjoying actually. I really enjoyed my 2 runs I've done.
Well done.
28 days.
28 days, yeah, it'll be fine. I like everything. We'll
you'll
give
be
it a
fine.
good go. So what empties your bucket?
Well, you're talking about like a time restricted thing there where you've got 28 days to climb Machu Picchu. I've just recently done a 10 weeks thing of I joined a choir to raise money for Joseph's Smile, which is a children's cancer charity, and we did a concert a week last Wednesday.
Oh, brilliant.
And to put it in perspective, our musical director says it usually takes a choir 10 weeks to learn one song. And then it's not necessarily concert ready. We learned 6.
That's amazing. Are you going to carry on with that?
Yeah, well, that was the question. It wasn't intended to start with. It was meant to be just a project, but she has offered us the opportunity to continue.
Brilliant.
So we're going to do that every...
And I bet that felt really good.
It was great, yeah. Pub afterwards was
and that's the part of it, isn't it? It's the social part of it.
And even, I've got a great group of friends. We try and meet up. Well, try once a month. We're lucky if we do it twice a year, but we try and meet up. There's like 8 of us. We try and meet up for food. But this was a different group, sharing different things, not even having to talk about agriculture. There was the thing of, you're the novelty because
you're the
farmer and a bit different and a funky job within agriculture as well. But just that's probably been the thing most recently. Probably.
Good for emptying your bucket. Good. What about yourself?
I think it's just slowing down. Just slowing down and enjoying those moments, like whether it's just a cup of tea in the garden whilst you're pushing one of the kids on the swing, or I don't know what we were doing the other day, and a friend of ours, I don't know, he had a project that he wanted to dig a pond in his garden. His wife had gone away for the weekend, and so this project's been on the go for years, and he didn't do any of the, he's going to kill me for saying that, but he didn't do any of the kids' school washing for Monday morning. The kids had no clean clothes to go back to school, but we dug a pond.
But you got a pond.
So we dug a pond, so there was me and Will and 4 kids and 2 on the wheelbarrows, all of us on spades digging a pond, and it was just like,
that is brilliant.
It was great. It was, and then we did like Penavan and just chilled out, and it's just those moments, like in a busy world, it's just taking 5, slowing down, and just enjoying time, time, trying not to get too much done, and that's the main goal. I think.
Brilliant. Well, thank you again. It's been a pleasure to talk to you and learn more about your jobs and everything you get up to. And thank you for being so open and honest with us. And we're really grateful. So thanks very much.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
It's been great.